and welcome to the HerdCom Popcast. I am one of your hosts, Michelle Alford, and I'm here with my co-host. Say hi, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
And we're here today with Elliot Stewart, who runs Porch Beers Zine here locally.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited. You actually, I believe, were a vendor at the first HerdCon in 2019.
I was, yes.
And you were back this year doing a kind of a panel discussion on how to create a zine, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, tell us a little bit about, for one, let's start with you.
Okay.
So yeah.
Let's see. Born in Buchanan, actually. Moved around a lot as a kid. And Huntington was always kind of the place I considered home. So as soon as I could, as soon as I was an adult, I came back here.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been making zines since I was about 13 years old. Started out about to date myself here. I think there was a Yahoo News group about one of my favorite authors, and a lot of the folks that were on that did their own zines. And it very much in the punk rock style, like, as soon as I got them, I'm like, oh, I can do this too. And so I started my own. A lot of the things I look back on now are pretty cringe, but such is the way of being a moody 13-year-old. So,
and the fun part is you're bringing in the current pop culture terminology with cringe, and exactly. So something my 13-year-old would say.
Sometimes it does feel like I'm like, hello, fellow youths, say stuff like that.
That's okay. My 13-year-old likes to look at me kind of like, I'm really? Mm-hmm. Are you sure you want to go there, Mom? It's like, what?
Gosh.
You're, native West Virginia. You've been doing zines for quite a while. So, for one, tell our audience what a zine is.
Okay, sure.
Just because we were talking with Ben earlier, and he was like, "What is a zine?"
Yeah. So, basically, it's short for magazine or fanzine. Started. I mean, you can trace the roots back way back to the advent of the printing press, but really they kind of got their start in 1940s, 1950s sci-fi culture.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of folks, particularly like women, were big fans of Star Trek and didn't really have a way, because it was pre-internet, really a lot of mass communication on a broad scale like that, like, rapid instant communication.
Yeah.
So it was a way for women to connect to other Star Trek fans.
Oh, wow.
And then, plan the conventions and like write stories and get pen pals back and forth. So that's kind of where it got its like start. And then in the 90s, with a subset of punk called Riot Girl, which was very like politically active. The personal is political was one of the mottos there. That is kind of where it got its big heyday. So
okay. Yeah, I've have you seen was it Moxie? It's a fairly recent film that's actually it's really good. It's one my daughter and I watch a lot. It's all culture because I want to say the main character's mom was into Riot Girl and the zine culture of her day. That's and of really course cool. The daughter is now kind of coming into it as a teenager, and it was really kind of interesting seeing this film based with the whole idea of the zine kind of throughout it. So,
I'll have to check that out. You're not the first person to recommend that to me, so I'll definitely have to check it out.
I was like, when I first started hearing more about zines more locally and recently, I was like, I was just watching Moxie not that long ago, and it was part of pop culture again. So I love it when things come back.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, and gosh.
And prior to the start of this, like TikTok has really got like such a resurgence and like interest in zines, like with like the generation after me and like even like the generation after that, I guess now. So
that is really awesome. So Heather.
So can you tell us about the process of starting a zine?
Yeah, because I've had a couple of people like come up to me and say things like, I have this great idea, but I don't really know how to start. Um, honestly, my first step is just writing, like get what I have like inside my brain or my heart out on a paper or computer in my case. Just like get it all out and don't edit, just get it out there.
Okay, yeah.
And then honestly after that it just depends on your preferences. Like some people like to do their editing and their layout on the computer. But because, when I came up that wasn't really an option, like I still do like analog, like
handwritten.
yeah. Well, I do I type it and then like print it and then do copy and paste like with backgrounds and just actual like glue sticks and scissors.
Yeah, you get that kind of decoupage mixed media art in that way.
Totally.
Very cool. Okay. And I believe you've done a couple classes at some of the public libraries, right?
I have, yes.
Okay. Do you have any planned coming up? I know last one I think I saw was South Charleston Public Library or Kanawha Public Library. You had done one?
Yes, in Kanawha. We are, oh gosh, and the dates are escaping me right now, but it is next month, and in July I am doing one at Culloden Library and then the Elk Valley Library. So they're both in that Kanawha system. They're different locations. I haven't been to either of them, so I'm real psyched to like check it out.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to the Elk one at all.
Oh, yeah, and it's like that area was so cut off for like so many with that flood for like so long. So it's really cool that they have like an active library there again. Like, because I just remember like how devastating that was to that community. So,
yeah, we've had a lot of that kind of flood devastation in the state.
Oh yeah.
Over the years, it feels like there's been so many that just really cut off communities for quite a while. So I love seeing any kind of resource, whether it's public library or other organizations that help keep things going in those communities. Because I know sometimes, what was it? We had several of them where the public libraries were completely decimated with the floods as well.
Yeah, and I remember the Kentucky flooding that happened just recently. Like, that was a huge blow to Apple Shop, if I'm remembering, right? They had to get volunteers to come in and like rescue these manuscripts from like way back when they first started. So
yeah, and that's very scary as someone who's been in libraries for a while. It's like, seeing things that are handwritten manuscripts and all this, one of a kind materials and thinking, oh my God, are they gone?
Yeah.
So I love it when you see groups that are doing like the digitization projects and making it accessible, because if it's handmade and all that, it's usually a very we don't want you to touch that kind of. I love seeing them actually get out there and digitize it and make it available again. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of part of why I do what I do is just because I feel like whether, like naturally or like manufactured, a lot of times, like if you have a voice, especially in a marginalized community, like sometimes it just gets erased if you don't put it out there. So like that is part of the reason why I do what I do, is just to get a record down that like me and my friends existed. And like I try to send it out to zine libraries across like the country, just so that it's like out there.
Yeah. And I love that you're doing that, because that is amazing. Now you created the Porch Beers Zine. So tell our audience a little bit about what your zine is and what inspired it.
So pretty much each one focuses on a certain theme. Themes in the past have been like West Virginia, fandoms, food, pride, and it comes out about once a quarter, I'd say, but it's honestly just whenever I can collect enough writings of the same theme to a zine. But yeah, it's kind of like Each theme is kind of, it's not necessarily me writing about the theme itself so much as it is like my recollections kind of filtered through that theme, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, like just kind of my experiences with certain things, being from Appalachia, being you know, trans and queer. So
Yeah. And that's in and of itself, that's such a unique perspective that doesn't get, I think, enough visibility.
absolutely.
Especially right now, because there's definitely a kind of anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ push that is really kind of making it difficult. And so I love that you're still putting that out there and open with it because, yeah, the current culture as a parent makes me scared because it's like, oh, my kid's growing up in this and, how's it going to affect their life? And, I remember the things that people had to do when I was a kid, trying to either hide who they were or deny who they were just to kind of survive.
Oh yeah. And just like, growing up in the 90s, especially like, hitting middle school, high school in the late 90s, I still remember when like, the very like the undercurrent of like homophobia and everything. So it's like it's honestly very disheartening to see that come back. But you just gotta fight against it and and just be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you are. That is awesome.
Well, thank you.
I think it's a good encouragement to the younger generations because they still have to come up through whatever is going on, and they'll have your learned experience from your youth plus how you're dealing with it now, and that's important.
Absolutely. And it's with me, so many of like the folks that would have been my elders were just like wiped out by the AIDS epidemic. So it's like very weird to be this person that's a role model for younger folks. Like it's just, it definitely has a lot of gravitas and like I take that seriously. But yeah, it's like just wild that like I don't know. Like I've had parents come up to me and be like, my kid is trans and I didn't really see a good future for them, but seeing you as like a successful adult, like, helps me feel better.
Yeah, I can so relate to that as a parent because you don't see as many people in the LGBTQ, especially trans community, that are there as those role models that you can kind of refer your kids to. They're just kind of drowned out by the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know they exist, but sometimes it is hard to see them because there's that lack of visibility. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And like I said, I'm very glad you're out there and being you, which is awesome.
I appreciate that.
Heather, you got a question?
Indeed. I do. So are you the only person that writes for your zine? And if not, how do you recruit people to write for your zine?
Sure. So for Porch Beers, that zine specifically is just me. But I have started a series called the Porch Beers Press Mix, which is a collaborative zine. And that I honestly just put the call out on Facebook and Instagram. There are places that specifically like reblog calls for zines, like just like, hey, here's an opportunity if you write, thing you can do. So I did the first issue of that. I think released that beginning of April. And then I've also started distributing zines from other authors.
Oh wow, nice. Yes.
That is cool.
Yeah, I just first one in April as well. That was my friend Kirsten Hodge, a zine of poetry. So
yes,
yes,
she's great.
Yes, she is. Yeah, I've been following the poetry she's been putting out, and I love it. So that's exciting.
Yeah,
it's very exciting.
Yeah, and I have a follow-up question if you don't mind.
Sure.
It's more about the technology that you use for your zine. In the past, I mean, and harkening back to, Spock and Kirk, I mean, the zines were, they were printed and then they were mimeographed, which means they're purple, basically. How has it changed since then in terms of technology?
That's a good question. And it honestly depends on your style. There are still people doing mimeograph zines.
Oh, that's awesome.
And has actually been like a real popular thing recently for various reasons. I've heard it's like better for the environment than copy toner, but I don't know the specifics on that, but it does look a lot cooler sometimes. Yeah. I use like I said, I do a kind of analog style with the layout, then I scan it and print it on a copier. There are even folks that just manufacture it with like glossy pages, like an actual magazine.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh wow.
That is really cool. Now, do you have very many people that are, because we had talked about the kind of mixed media art aspect of it. Mm-hmm. Do you see a lot of people still doing not just the writing, but also like a visual arts version of the zine?
100%. Like, especially in comics.
Okay.
Comics are a big, like indie comics are very big in the zine world. So.
Okay. Now, and is there I guess, a kind of tendency at all towards a digital zine? I know like Kelsey Crawford does digital comics, but I wasn't sure if the zine was hitting both print and digital or sticking mostly towards the print.
That's a little bit of like a little bit of controversial in the zine world. Some people very much pro digital zines, some people not so much.
Okay.
So it honestly just depends on who you ask. Like I think it's a good way to make zines a little more like accessible to things like screen readers and things like that. I prefer having something tangible though. Like I like being able to like hold a thing and like think like, oh, this was like a limited edition thing that like maybe if I break this it might not exist anymore. Sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, and what kind of print run do you tend to do with your zines? Because I think I actually have like issue 1 and 2 that you had from the first HerdCon. But I mean, what kind of print runs do you tend to do, and I guess what would you even recommend for others who wanted to create zines, where they would go or start on something like that?
Yeah, I have a little bit of like I want to say lucky circumstances, but I have a little bit of an advantage that some people might not have. Earlier this year, I got the Appalachia Reframed grant and was able to buy my own copier.
That's awesome.
Which definitely helps with the manufacturing of the zines. Like that makes it so much easier. And I can pretty much print on demand now at this point.
Oh, that's awesome.
So at really the only reason I've taken issues 1 through 3 out of print right now it's just because there's some content that like I feel like I've outgrown or I don't necessarily agree with. So I'm working on making kind of a best of to put out.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that should hopefully be done if not next month, by July.
Okay. Now, you'd mentioned you're putting out other people's zines now. So I guess in a way you're kind of entering into the publishing industry. So how's that going, and how do you feel about it so far?
So far it's going pretty good. I recently just I'm in talks with somebody to put out like this person Dottie the Psychic, some of her like book, like her part of it's like part memoir, part just how-to guide for like magical practices.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I met her through some mutual friends, and she was like, you can't just have handshake agreements with people. You need to start like having contracts and like, because this is going to get bigger. I think probably sooner than you think. So yeah, right now I have kind of 4 titles kind of in the docket that are about to be released from other authors, not including Kirsten's next poetry zine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's yeah, it's definitely like kind of I'm learning by trial and error with this. But so far it's people are just giving me amazing work. Like I've contacted a few people, but mostly it's people contacting me and being like, "Hey, I like what you do. Let's put out a zine together." And that's really cool.
That is super awesome.
That is pretty cool.
Because I can't see you until you talk. Like all of a sudden it pops up when you talk, and I'm like, "Oh, I see Heather."
You said you were mentioning that porch beer was somewhat Appalachian. What could you tell us more about the themes of Appalachia that have been going through your writing and your thoughts? Sure. Because I've been taking Appalachian classes lately, and so this is actually very fascinating to me.
Oh, very cool. Sure. Let me think for a second. Yeah, specifically Appalachian stuff. Yeah, so a lot of it, I do write a lot about growing up in West Virginia. And it's kind of interesting when I talk to my partner who originally comes from Detroit, just about like the differences in us growing up. Like he's very much a sports person. I like sports as well. But it's just interesting to see like what songs, like apparently Cotton Eye Joe is not big where he grew up, but here it's like every sports event has it.
Every school dance even.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
But yeah, it's just, I write a lot about, growing up. I grew up, my family was Pentecostal. So I write about that. Write about, country music. Loved it as a kid, still do, honestly. Maybe not some of the stuff on the radio right now, but like, especially like the more like Americana branch of stuff, like Tyler Childers and stuff like that.
Yeah, Tyler's pretty cool.
Yeah. And yeah, especially issue 2, like that's pretty much a lot of like every article has some kind of memory of like West Virginia, whether it's food or this band The Argument from Morgantown, or like a ghost story, like a supernatural encounter I had when I was younger, and just try to get some of the like folk beliefs that I grew up with, and just things that maybe I don't think are unique until I talk to people from outside of the region.
Yeah, I can see that. I always get interesting looks because my family was always big into what's called chocolate gravy.
Yeah, I lived in the South for a while. So, yeah.
What is this chocolate gravy?
Oh,
because I'm from the South.
Well,
and when I say I'm from the South, I really mean Florida.
Yeah. Well, chocolate gravy is something. Now, for me, it was something we had at least once a week. I mean, it was a regular kind of breakfast thing. And it does seem to be fairly unique to, I want to say, the Appalachian South.
Yeah. Like East Tennessee.
Yeah, East Tennessee.
Very tippy top of Georgia, maybe.
Yeah, it's very much more along the Appalachian Trail south side of it. But
it's like a sweet sort of, like you put it like a sweet chocolate sauce that you put on biscuits.
Yeah, you make white gravy like you would make for regular white flour gravy, and you add cocoa and sugar to it. And it's a really simple recipe, and technically it's probably what you would call a regular like old fashioned cooked pudding. So,
Yeah.
but it's very interesting that like I grew up with that, and then even in high school, I had people who'd come in and have no idea what I was ever talking about. They thought I was insane, and I'm like, it's good.
Yeah, I learned when I lived in Tennessee briefly that if you wanted biscuits and gravy, you specified sausage biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
Or to get beans and cornbread, it was pinto bean soup and cornbread.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, here it was just beans and cornbread, but yeah, I can see pintos and cornbread being you have to specify.
Yeah.
It's kind of like hot dog sauce.
Yeah, yeah.
That gets some really interesting regional, beans, no beans, meat only, what goes in it, what goes on the hot dog.
Yeah.
And people get really defensive of what they put on their hot dogs.
Yeah, it's a real badge of honor, I think. So.
Yeah, it's so much wrapped into that. That I guess the part of food cultural identity, and that is one of the ones people seem to really get. I think more defensive and wrapped into and invested in.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I do a lot of traveling with my family, and whenever someone new, they're like, we talk about the chili and hot dogs, and they're like,
oh yeah,
huh? And you talk about coleslaw and hot dogs, they get even more confused.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's crazy how regional some of it gets, and it's so fun to meet people. And I'd love to get a nice wide variety of like the students here on campus together and be like, okay, everybody bring in your, regional idea of the hot dog.
Yeah.
And let's lay them all out here. Tell us what all the toppings are, what makes it, a New York style or West Virginia.
Yeah, you get some Chicago kids in there and then it goes crazy.
Oh, so. Yeah. Suddenly it's
gosh. Hey, and then you bring in the vegetarians and then it's like everything's off the border.
And see, the fun part is when you bring in the vegetarians and the vegans, then you have this whole new variety of all of those other things because either they adapt the original, or they completely go off the rails and just have, this is, the vegan. You got to have it this way. So, as a vegetarian, Heather, what's your hot dog?
Gosh.
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
For me, gosh. Well, I would probably go with a tofurkey dog, although I like the field roast ones. And then I really like that spicy veggie chili that they come out with from Amy's.
Oh,
it's really good.
I haven't had that, but I've had several of the other Amy's things, and I do like those quite a while.
Oh yeah, Amy's is really good. But I was just thinking about chili custard. And I mean, this falls under language. Like, not to put you on the spot, but I wondered where the term custard came from in regards to chili.
I honestly don't know, other than custard stand.
I was thinking.
But I don't know. That is an interesting question.
Yeah, sounds logical to me.
I don't know if it was originally where it started, but where my mom grew up, there was the famous custard stand was
on the mountain. Very cool.
Thank you.
One of my favorite things to go is to go to like these little small communities and check out like their hot dog and ice cream place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love doing that on road trips.
Oh yeah. Well, and you never know what you're gonna find because
totally.
I mean, if you go to McDonald's, you find the standard fare.
Right.
And it's kind of creepy because you find that all across the country, but you also find it outside the country to a degree. There's at least some variation if you leave the country,
Right.
which is nice, but still, you can still get a Big Mac regardless. So it's nice going to that local shop, seeing what the local flavor is and how they present it, and even what they call it.
Yeah.
Because it's like Tudors. I love going to Tudors just to read the names of the biscuits. It's like one of my favorites is Politician.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, can we make a secondary version of this called the Fat Politician and add the potato to it? And you know, it's got to go up that in a little notch, but you know, I'm like, it's really good that way. But I just listen to Fat Politician. I need the Fat Politician. So
that never occurred to me that no, seriously, this must be really special. It just seemed to me like the title of their biscuits, they really do change from place to place.
Not entirely from place to place. There are some specialty biscuits you'll get in different places, but it's just kind of neat seeing the naming scheme, because that's
like just various restaurants, not like Tudors overall.
But Tudors here locally, because it's a very kind of local. I'd say maybe most of West Virginia, a little of Ohio.
Yeah,
it's pretty small overall. Even DP Dough again does that kind of interesting naming.
Yeah,
and just kind of looking at, you know, okay, why did they come up with this name?
Yeah,
and it's kind of fun because sometimes it's because of some local hero or who knows. It's just kind of interesting seeing what they come up with.
Yeah, I mean that's always like, you know, Anthony Bourdain is one of my big heroes. So like I'm a firm believer that like food, you can understand the people by like eating their food, like or at least start to understand. You can't like be like, oh, I have ate one thing from you and now I'm an expert on your culture. But that's the other end of the pendulum where it's like, oh, that's a little problematic, friend.
But yeah, I think it does. Food's one of those things that can bring people together. You're more likely to sit down and really talk to somebody while you eat. And especially if you get to share something that you love with them. So I think that is one of the things I loved about Anthony.
Yeah, and it's also like just preserving culture, like all these like, you know, like the heritage brands or the heritage like varieties of vegetables and like all the, you know, just old school Appalachian recipes.
Oh,
you know, just keeping those alive.
Oh yeah, and that is kind of fun too. Going through. Did you ever watch Danny Hollis? I think it's Danny Hollis.
Who is that?
He is a TikToker, and he does old school recipes.
Oh, cool!
Like he goes through and he'll go to like the local libraries and he'll find 1800s recipe book.
Cool.
And he's so much fun. Best part is he has to go through and sometimes he has to go, like interpret what the ingredients were.
Yeah.
But he's actually got a book coming out, and it's just kind of fun because he started doing it just as like TikTok videos, going, you know, okay, we're going to make Depression era bean brownies.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's no way it can taste good because they're talking about making this from beans. And, you know, there's always this incredulous kind of look on his face. And then the best part is, of course, when he finishes it and then you get the review. And sometimes he was right. And not good. And then other times he is just completely floored by, you know, okay, this was flourless cake. And you know, there's no eggs, no butter, and no milk in it, or all this kind of stuff. And he's like, how did this turn out? And it actually tastes good.
Yeah. Like one of the, I went to Lost Creek Farm, where they have their supper club there. It's up up in the top of West Virginia. I can't remember where off the top of my head now. But they're amazing. Look them up online. They're amazing folks.
What's it called again?
Lost Creek Farm.
Lost Creek Farm. I'm looking now.
I'm trying to. It's yeah. I can't remember. It's a small town where it is.
It's in Lost Creek.
Oh yes, that makes sense.
In Harrison County.
Yes. Okay. And they do kind of like I want to say not avant-garde, but like an upscale version of like all these memories they have of like their grandma's cooking and cooking of like the immigrant communities that were there. And one of the things that I tried was the stuff called vinegar pie, which is like a take on like a lemon pie.
Okay.
That was Depression era when like you couldn't get lemons, so like they made it out of apple cider vinegar, and it was amazing.
Oh wow,
that was really cool because like when I went up there, I was in such a slump like for writing. Like I had just been burnt out on writing and creating much of anything, and I went there and it just kind of like really inspired me.
Oh, that's awesome
because of the way that it was. Honestly, like it wasn't just food; it was storytelling. And like that just kind of, because that's what I want to do, like whatever medium I participate in, like I just want to tell stories, and that like really meant a lot to me to like break through that. So
well, and storytelling is such a big part of Appalachian culture. That's something, when you talk to your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, everybody always seemed to have a story. And the idea of the porch used to be the place that you go hang out with, your random neighbors and tell stories about what was going on. So I love that whole culture of storytelling.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of, with the title Porch Beers is kind of what I was going for. So yeah.
I think it works really well. I mean, you get the idea of the very neighborly and sitting down to relax and enjoy each other's company and sharing.
Yeah, and like my friends are always like a rotating like cast of characters in there. So
that's awesome.
Some of the funnier stories, people will be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that person from the last issue." So
now I think I saw you post recently that you're starting to do things like ads in the zine.
Yes.
So how's that going? How did you, before doing ads, how did you start with, funding doing zines?
Yeah, it was honestly just like straight out of pocket, because when I first started, I'm like, this will be a fun hobby. If I can break even on it.
Okay.
So yeah, with the ads, honestly, it was just I think it was issue 3 or 4. I had space to fill and was like, well, let's try and see if anybody will bite for this.
Huh.
And I ended up anytime I put up a thing that's like, I'm selling an ad for X issue, sells out in like a day or two. So
that's awesome.
Which I think is a testament to like how much people like stuff.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Like the last one I put up for the next scene that's coming out, I think I had 3 ad spaces and sold them in the span of 20 minutes.
Oh wow!
Which I feel
that is cool.
But
that is very awesome. Well, I mean, as far as getting to your zines, how would our audience purchase your zines? Because I happen to be at a place where you had a table set up. And I think I have seen, at Red Caboose.
Yes.
Okay.
Your West Virginia local. I have it at Red Caboose, Booktenders, and Taylor Books in Charleston. And then there are a couple places you can order online. You can order them directly from me from Etsy.
Okay.
And then there are a couple of places that sell zines that are distributing Porch Beers titles. Wasted Ink, Distro, and Neither Nor Distro, and then let's see what else. Quimby's. Quimby's is a bookstore in Chicago that has them.
Wow.
That is really cool.
I'm pretty psyched. Awesome. There's also a Blue Stocking bookstore in New York, and I'm getting ready to send some off to Atomic Books in Baltimore. So
that is super cool.
Yeah.
So what is the furthest ship one of your zines?
I have one that I need to send out that is going to Ethiopia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is super awesome.
Mm-hmm. Prior to that, it was Israel, I think so.
Super awesome.
Yeah, it's I get to learn all the how to format an address in various countries.
Yeah, it gets a little complicated on some of them. So the fun of if you have to dial in numbers and call places, it's a little
with the country codes and whatnot.
The country code, and that like we've got state codes here. If you're out of the country trying to call home, oh my God, how many numbers do I need? So very cool.
And I remember that from the days before you could dial someone on Zoom or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Pre video chat.
Having to get a phone card if you were trying to call long distance.
Oh God. Yeah. Having to actually pay extra for long distance.
Yep.
Like, yeah, we used to have long distance plans, guys.
My first cell phone, I think it was free 6 p.m. and weekends, or like at 6 p.m. and texts were 10 cents a piece.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's gonna text? Why do people do that? Now I'm like glued to my phone texting people.
Yeah, I find I prefer text, which irritates my parents all to pieces at times because they really don't like to text.
Yep.
But I'm like, I love to just be able to, because I can do it from anywhere and nobody hears my conversation. Like there's a privacy bit there that, I didn't have with voice.
And sometimes you just don't have the spoons to have like a full conversation.
That's an interesting phrase, by the way. I may actually borrow it if you're okay with that.
Oh yeah, that's there's spoon theory. Yeah,
I love spoon theory.
Pretty it's basically an explanation of like how much energy you have to expend like as a person with like disabilities or like with some kind of neurodivergence. It's very handy shorthand.
Yeah, it do look it up. It's very handy to be able to say, okay, I've only got 10 spoons today. And sorry, you're not getting one of them because I've got this, and this to do.
Yeah.
But it's a really very interesting concept, and I think it works really well. It's kind of odd using spoons, I guess, but at the same time, it works. So I think I've seen some planes instead, but I think the spoons somehow work better.
Yeah, it's sticky because it's weird. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've heard it phrased that way because of medicine.
I can see that.
Does make sense. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, if you're, disabled or you're, it's something along those lines, obviously you're gonna have to, spoon it.
Yeah. You got any more zine questions, Heather?
I don't know. Because I do have friends that were linking in with the traditional Spock and Kirk. So that's why I was just like, oh my God.
Yes.
I love that got referred to.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's when I do my history of zines workshops. Like that's I talk about that.
That is awesome.
And the thing is, for those of you who are not familiar with it, Spock and Kirk weren't just buddies.
Just guy pals, calling around.
They were guy pals.
Guy pals. Everybody's guy pals.
It reminds me of the Vine, and they were.
So what are the? Sorry. what are the topics that are boosted around? I mean, for Porch Beers, what is your favorite topic to write about or explore?
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think of things that come up a lot, like over the span of like several issues. I was recently on a podcast, Commonplace, with Nathan Thomas as the host, and they said that one of the concepts that came up a lot in my writing was the concept of home.
Okay.
Which I didn't really think consciously about, but it does come up a lot, and that seems to be something that really like resonates with me for some reason. Like the concept of like what home is, what we consider home, whether or not we have one. Like, yeah.
Well, and it's a very interesting topic. Partially because, I mean, if you're talking about things like Appalachia, there's a very different sense of home in culture. Then, of course, when you get into conversations with LGBTQ community and how home is transformed, because sometimes the more traditional ideas of home kind of fall away and aren't a part of your life because of whatever biases and stuff other people might have.
100%, yeah. And it's just, on a more like personal level, moving around a lot as a kid, it's like that is something that I was always kind of seeking out and just kind of like figuring out what home even meant to me, So
there is a transience of home and that whole idea of, is it a physical place? Is it a feeling? Is it a person or a circumstance? That'd be a very interesting topic to kind of explore. So
yeah, and I think on a lighter note, a thing that I enjoy that I write a lot about or make passing references to is pro wrestling. So,
oh gosh,
I was gonna say, are you familiar with Dave Humphreys?
Yes, we go way back.
I have a question, and this is a pro wrestling question.
Okay.
My boyfriend is a huge pro wrestling fan, and he told me that this week on AEW, CM Punk was supposed to come back. And I know this is probably totally off the mark. Do you know if he actually came back or if they're delaying it?
Oh, I don't actually know. I was supposed to watch this week, and I like what were we watching instead of that? We were watching some movie. I can't remember what it was, and then I was like, "Oh, AEW's already off." I don't know if he came back. I mean, I can't remember if it was this week or this upcoming week. They're going to be in Chicago, which I mean, it seems kind of logical if they are in Chicago. That'll be when he comes back, if he comes back. But actually, not a controversial statement in the world of wrestling. I'm not a big CM Punk fan.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay. I still like you.
Oh, well, I'm my heart belongs to Moxley for forever. He's kind of some boy too. Cincinnati. It's not far away from here, so.
Okay. Well, we used to have a big pro wrestling scene back in the 80s. It was kind of crazy because that's what all my friends did every weekend, is go to weird wrestling tournaments. At the our Civic Arena. It's Health Arena now, but so yeah. I've never been a wrestling fan though, so I'm like, huh? Hulk Hogan? It's like, I remember Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
Andre the Giant.
My grandma, who I'm very close to, she's very supportive almost everything in my life, but she just does not get the pro wrestling thing. So
yeah, my daughter and my husband both love it, and I'm just like, you go do your thing, guys. It's like, have fun.
Like my boyfriend. Gosh, my boyfriend is really into it, and I follow it, but I follow it more along the lines of Oh, so, oh my gosh, she threw water on that guy? And I mean, it's more for me, it's like it's a gossip angle.
Absolutely. It is 100% like a beefy soap opera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I have always referred to it in my head as like, it's just another soap opera.
Yeah, or I saw somebody else do it as redneck anime. So,
ooh, yeah, I could see that. That's a really good one. Well, as a just general, do you read a lot of other zines? And do you have like a particular favorite?
Yeah, one that's been very inspirational for me is a zine Comet Bus. The author is Aaron Comet Bus, and he does a very definitely my sense of like in-person storytelling, kind of like put you at the scene of the thing. Definitely is inspired a lot by him.
Okay.
And I actually got to meet him when I lived in Chattanooga. He was touring with a book he wrote.
Oh,
and I got to be like, sorry if this makes you feel weird, but like you're a big hero to me and you made me make zines. And he was like, he told me what I did was very important, and that like stuck with me. Like that has kept me going sometimes. Another one I like is Alex Reck. They're an author out of Portland, and they write a lot of their stuff recently has been about like witchcraft, secular witchcraft in particular, which is like they don't use any kind of like deities, and when they do works, it's just kind of like you have a different like energy or the universe or atoms, like you just have a different like what makes magic go theory.
Okay. Very interesting. Trying to think of other zine related questions, because it's one of those things I've only really seen it just as the more local zines, like pick up one or two here or there.
Sure.
I've not actually followed it on a national level or even worldwide level, I guess. So
yeah, it's pretty amazing like what you can find in a zine. Like any kind of fandom, any kind of information, like it's there. That's awesome. Which is really cool. I especially love seeing like younger folks get into it and like, saying like what's on their minds. Because so often in society, like we don't take young people seriously. Like, you treat them like, especially kids get treated like, they're either like infantilize them or treat them like mini adults, and like they don't really get a whole lot of autonomy to like just be themselves.
Well, and the idea of the mini adults, even though, is you're a mini adult, but it's sit down and be quiet versus valid things to talk about, and we want to hear your ideas and opinions. So I agree. They don't have as much of a voice, though. I do find, and I love this about a lot of the modern social media and stuff. You've got things like TikTok and Reels and YouTube, and I love that there's a creator movement in it. There's so much more voices out there because, like, I remember in the 80s, you had the cable TV and you had a couple of the small cable TV privately created content, and then everything kind of disappeared.
Yeah. And just like one big flat culture.
Yeah. Everything was like, everything's the cable companies now, and everything is filtered.
Yeah.
Very heavily filtered. And I love that we're getting a more creator culture, at least currently, between things like the zines and the different forms of content creation that are out there, and the accessibility of creating.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. I've always been a champion of the little guys creating stuff. Like, I cut my teeth here when I was in my 20s, and then coming back to school at WMUL, which I think is so important, like that we keep that going and like, keep it funded and keep like people interested in it, because there's so many bands out there that like I would not have known about if I had not worked there or listened to the station. So.
And it's nice being able to see some of the local bands when we're going to things. I try to bring in local bands for things like HerdCon because I want to see what is produced here locally. I love seeing all this creation that's out there, and like, okay, let's bring in Disarm the Fallen. Let's bring in had Aristotle Jones, and we've had the Heavy Hitters, and trying to think.
Secret Arrangement.
I was like, I can't think of their name off the top of my head. And I love being able to see what these other people are doing and stuff creatively.
Yeah, it's just so vital that we support local art, local music, journalism, everything.
And WMUL is still able to bring more of that local stuff, I think, where
absolutely.
It feels like a lot of the other radio stations are getting more and more where they're syndicated through larger groups and kind of bought out, and they play all the same stuff when they do that.
You're about to get me on my deregulating and the 96 Telecom Act soapbox here. So
hey, I like hearing those kind of things because it's important, because if you do want to create a culture and an environment where people are out there actually putting out actual new things, you have to have a place to do it.
Absolutely, because you can't get your start in a void.
No. And there's too much of that. That's the one thing I felt was really crazy about, the 90s and early 2000s. I had remembered all this back in the 80s being, seeing all these little cable TV, local shows, and then poof, nothing.
Yeah.
And it took a long time, it felt like, to get back to a creator culture. So.
But you could still find it kind of in the hollers. I grew up in Logan for a little bit, and we used to have punk shows at this abandoned grade school.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's just, and then these bands would drive just nowhere, and so many bands get their starts in these little, or at least they used to. I feel like this is turning into a Peapod story, but we would get all these just punk bands coming through touring at different places, and they'd stop off in Logan and play to very enthusiastic 30 or so kids. So
that's awesome. Yeah, my area didn't have a lot. I was in the country, and there was no local music scene other than gospel.
Gotcha.
Which is, so, and it has its own place. But my husband grew up, of course, here in Huntington. It's interesting seeing the difference that he grew up with, because all ages shows were popular here. Not as much now, it feels like, but they were still, you can still find all kinds of local music here. So it's kind of neat.
There are still just shows that's just more of a house show culture instead of a venue culture now.
Yeah.
So
sure.
That's really cool, because I moved around every 3 years, Navy brat, and I don't have that sort of history.
So when you moved around, was it to different states completely? Or well,
I was born in Albany, Georgia, and then we moved to Key West. Then we moved to Hollywood, Maryland, and then we moved to Virginia Beach, and then we moved to and then Florida, and then DC, and then that's what it's like when you're a Navy brat.
Yeah, so
every 3 years.
Yeah, and that's kind of I realize not everybody has the experiences I do. So I want to definitely talk about kind of local culture and local putting down roots and just remembering stuff the old Calamity Cafe when I was a kid and stuff like that, just keep the memories. Keeping the memories of stuff alive. One of the places where I cut my teeth playing music was Marley's Doghouse.
Oh,
did you?
The very first time.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's been going a while. Yeah.
Oh, tell me about this place.
Oh gosh!
Right across from the stadium.
Kind of a dive bar.
Yeah.
I think that might be putting it lightly, but they had like definitely like kind of like a subculture sort of thing there. Pretty much if you were like, I have an instrument, will you give me a chance? They're like, sure, why not? I had a band. My band was William Shatner Blues Explosion.
That's awesome.
And I played lounge covers of punk songs.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, and I would draw people in, and they were like, they put me on the bill with like pretty much if it was a weird show, like if it was noise rock or just something that they couldn't categorize, they're like, you open, with very mixed results sometimes. So
that's awesome.
I had my kazoo taped up on the wall for a while.
That is awesome. No, yeah, it's been God, it's been years since I've been there, but I used to hit like the drop shop. I mean, I think I saw Clutch at the drop shop.
Oh wow. Is that where Fugazi played when they came in?
I don't know.
Because that's everybody talks about, like all my punk friends that were like here around the time, or like, you know, my older punk friends are like, when Fugazi came to town, it's like I don't know, like a Christmas story but for punks or something. I don't know.
It was one of those things. I was not the huge music scene. I just went with my friends to places. And so I randomly see random things.
Sure.
But yeah, it was one of the big places to go though for music in the area. It was like the drop shop, and like where else. Most of the places I ended up were just have a few beers and dance.
Right.
So, but
and then when I came here the first time for college, the High Amp still in town.
Okay.
That was like a big deal because they did all the all ages shows here, and one of the bands I remember before they got big, like they were in like this broken down, and like I think their guarantee was $300 and a pot of chili. Was Paramore.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one interesting band writer.
Yeah. Well, they're like, vegan, we want a meal. We don't care what it is, and we just need gas to get to the next city.
It's amazing.
And now they're like, you know, everywhere.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember my husband talking about seeing War.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. If you're not,
gosh,
it's extremely theatrical. It's like cosplay meets rock meets politics.
I think that's accurate.
It's the best way to do it. And lots of spray you down with like fake blood stuff. Lots of that. So yeah, he'd actually run into them and saw them. God, I can't remember the name of the bar. Down near where Nawab's is now.
Oh, the Monkey Bar?
I think it was the Monkey Bar.
And we're getting into old Huntington lore now, aren't we?
Oh yeah. So it was like he would be like telling me all these stories. So I'm sitting here like, what?
I can sit and talk way longer than probably you have about like old Huntington bar stories. So.
But yeah, it's fun. I love what people have to say about the old areas and stuff, whether it's their experiences through like while they were here at college or just living here in town and just seeing where they came from, because it does come back to that idea of storytelling. I love to hear people's stories.
Yeah, I mean, one of my fondest memories, my mom was a secretary at Pied Piper. And when I went, you know, when she couldn't get a babysitter, sometimes I'd go to work with her. And, you know, one of my fondest memories was like going at the where they tested the homes, the theater kits and like the stereos and like sitting and watching Space Jam.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I just sat and
remember
watched it
the
over and
piping.
over again.
Got my first instrument there, trombone.
Oh, that's where I took piano lessons. So.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, it's long gone now.
Yeah.
I think the last one I saw was up in like South Charleston. Yeah, and I don't even know if it's there. I don't think it's there now.
Yeah.
Southridge.
Yeah, the last time I saw that was like pre-COVID, so I don't know if it's still a thing or not. But, well, not saying COVID's gone, but like before it.
Yeah.
Before the chaos of COVID and all of the craziness that came after.
I believe it's still around.
Oh yeah.
Good. I recently bought guitar strings there, like several months ago.
Cool.
Where is this?
The Pied Piper. Nate,
did you? Yeah, that's still there.
Okay. Yeah,
the Pied Piper is still there.
And I was like,
it's
I loved having it here in Huntington, or Barboursville back in the day, but
yeah, the one I think it used to be the building is now like the Merrill Lynch downtown, like the towns.
Yeah, we had the one downtown, we had the one in Barboursville, we had Mac and Dave's.
Yep.
That's gone. And that's at least more recent because they used to have awesome guy that he repaired cameras there.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I mean, I brought an old style, like top down with the two lenses on the front camera, and he was like showing me how to use it. You know, you actually had to manually wind it and all this kind of stuff. And so, yeah, he was very cool to talk to because he was very knowledgeable and very excited.
Yeah.
About cameras. I mean, he could talk to you for hours on anything to do with cameras and film. And it was fun to talk to him because it was it's different.
I feel like you lose that a lot in like the big, like kind of like big box stores now. Not to sound like a people, but back in mind.
Yeah.
Get Jim started on that, my boyfriend, because lately he's been getting, well, not lately, but he has gotten into Polaroids. The expensive ones. Like, it's like we went to Best Buy recently and I was like, wait, weren't those just $16 for a 2-pack, which I thought was exorbitant as it was. And he's looking at the thing for like 22 and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Real film though is definitely not cheap at this point, and you can't get it locally produced. There we go. So they have to mill it off at this point. There's not a lot of dark rooms and stuff and people who actually have the equipment to actually process your film. So it's
because it used to be different. Like, you know, you'd go to the mall and there'd be the little kiosk outside and you drive by and pick them up in an hour.
Yeah, 1 hour photo. That was amazing. But yeah, that there comes back to that nostalgia. Yeah, all these things that have kind of disappeared.
Yeah, so it's nostalgia is definitely a thing. A theme I do a lot, like just keeping the memories and stuff like this alive. So
yeah. Well, nostalgia comes back to that storytelling because the whole culture of nostalgia is remembering those things and being able to remember the feelings and the thoughts that come out of it. And so, yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
That is one thing I appreciate about my town now. I live like 30 minutes away from here. And when I was little, I remember like walking down like the Main Street area because we used to live close to it. But when we moved away, for some reason, I don't know if it like did, but like a lot of stores were closing down there and stuff like that. But recently, a lot more local stores and more area or more focus has been put on to that area because also they've recently updated to make it more wheelchair friendly as well.
Nice. Very cool. Just down a Hurricane or okay. Very nice. I love seeing them revitalize areas.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Nate, did anything happen with your D&D game?
We haven't.
Sorry about that.
Nah, we haven't. I haven't had time to. Well, all of us haven't had time to come back and do it again since I started working at WMUL.
Oh yeah.
They keep you busy. Summers.
The work life balance thing and D&D. That's one of the things I remember most about playing D&D. It's like, okay, guys, when are we gonna meet again?
Yep.
When's everybody free?
Another campaign I'm in. We actually scheduled for next Tuesday, so fingers crossed.
There you go.
Keep us posted because that can be fun. I'm always loving to hear like what people create with their D&D campaigns. I don't know.
It's been so long
so
since
much fun.
Because I was in school, so I have like multiple different grades of friends. And since 2 of them are seniors, so they just finished, and I think the other 2 are juniors, so they're about to finish. So we're about to, since summer's almost starting for them, about to actually have time to do it again.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's the best part about the high school years and even early college is actually you had the summers off and more time that everybody could actually get together. Well, do we have any more questions? Nate, do you have any zine questions? Okay. Heather, do you have any other questions?
No, but I really want to thank you, Elliot, because this is the first time I'm actually getting to talk to you. So
yeah. Well, it's a pleasure being here and like talking to y'all. Like this has been so much fun.
Yeah, we love doing this. It's a odd part of our jobs. Like, yay, we're gonna do a podcast for work.
I know, it's like, yay.
Yeah, we got a PopCon and we get to do a podcast.
Very cool. Living the dream.
Yeah, very much so. Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Elliot.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Do you have any particular like things that you want the audience to know? Do you have like anything particular coming out soon that you want them to be aware of, or events you're going to be out? Like Loud and Proud's coming up.
Yes, I will be at Loud and Proud on the West End, West 14th. That is June 23rd. I was like,
oh yeah,
I said it and then I was like, wait a second. So yeah, and I have a few new titles coming out, including a sequel to my spirituality zine, Many Gods No Masters, which is called I Am a Flightless Bird, after a Mountain Goat song. So.
Oh, very cool. Are you doing any other like events like Old Central City Days? Or I'm trying to think what's coming up in this area.
I'm trying to
it's early June.
I've got I'm taking a little bit of the summer off just to kind of like recoup and like get some some more ideas for future issues out. But after that I'm probably gonna hit the ground running. I think the next big one I have is the West Virginia Book Festival in Charleston. So.
Okay, and that's October, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna be there.
Awesome. I'll see you there then.
Excited. We're gonna have
We're gonna be there.
Con/Marshall Libraries.
Cool.
Like woohoo.
And South Charleston too. So
nice.
All the fun.
Yeah. So everything's gonna be all crammed together on one table.
Oh yeah. It'll be exciting. So we'll be down the library alley that they're doing this year.
Oh, cool. Okay.
They were adding just a section specifically for local libraries to kind of talk about their stuff, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." It's like, yeah.
Not sure where I'm going to be. But, we'll see. It'll be a mini reunion.
A while before they'll finish all of their planning. Sure. I'm sure. Like, here's the table. A week before. Here's where you're going to be sitting. That's awesome. Well, thank you again for being here with us.
100%.
We have loved having you, and
love.
Yeah. I've enjoyed the zines I've got of yours, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some of the others.
For sure.
So, and I think it's so exciting that you're going to be publishing all these others as well. That's like 5 different ones that you're talking about now with Kirsten's and the others. But yeah, that is really Send us some updates.
Will do.
And we will be including Elliot's information where you can get the Porch Beers zines and the other zines from Porch Beers Press.
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I got it right. So we'll include all that with the show notes on our YouTube and Spotify for this episode. So you can contact us if you have questions, or we can make sure that there's those links so that you can reach out to Elliot yourself. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
And thank everybody for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank all you folks out there for checking me out.
All right. Heather, you want to say bye?
Bye. I'm looking you up on Facebook.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, you can find Porch Beers Zines on Facebook and Instagram and Etsy.
And TikTok now. I just got into TikTok, so.
Well, you'll definitely send me the link and I will add it to the...
Will do.
So, all right, guys. Nate, you want to say bye to you?
Bye.
And have a great day, guys. Bye.
Bye.